There's one team I believe was absolutely snubbed from the college football playoff, and no, it's not Florida State. I'm talking about Georgia. I believe they are one of the top few teams in the country, and it's not being talked about enough that they were completely left out of the playoff this season. After barely losing to Bama in the SEC championship game by just 3 points, the committee dropped Georgia from number 1 in the playoff rankings to number 6. That right there does not sit right with me and doesn't make much sense. Georgia's resume was also far better than any other team in the playoff. They beat a ranked Kentucky, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Missouri by an average of 28 points per game during the regular season. Those teams ended up as Cotton Bowl, Peach Bowl, and Citrus Bowl champions. Not to mention, they just completely dominated number 5 Florida State 63-3 in the Orange Bowl. If I were the committee, I would have had Georgia in the playoff over Texas. I know that Texas won the Big 12, and I know they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, but that was a week 2 matchup, and the Texas loss to Oklahoma was by far the worst loss of any team in playoff discussion. In Oklahoma lost to Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Arizona this season. Georgia's loss to Alabama should not have knocked them out of the playoff. As we saw in 2021, that rematch could have easily gone in the Bulldogs' favor. The real college football playoff, my version of it, should have been Michigan number 1, Washington number 2, Bama number 3, and Georgia at number 4. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Before the break, we looked at the players leaving Georgia for the NFL draft. But let's talk about the guys coming back. Obviously, a lot of good ones. We got Carson Beck under center. But this offseason is a pivotal one for a lot of different guys. Rusty, you've got 3 that you think this offseason has the most to gain for them. Who are those guys for you?
Well, number 1 for me would be Monroe Freeland, because we talked about Amarius Mims just a while ago. He's gone. Well, Monroe Freeland was ranked number 1 offensive lineman in the country last year for on 3 at tackle. He's played a little bit this year. He's got to step up and fill a big role with Amarius Mims being gone. Also look about Mykel Williams. This is the thing about Mykel. It's not new for him, but now he's changing positions. They're going to stand him up on the outside. He wants to get more pressures, more sacks. And I think you saw some of that in that Florida State game, him standing up, getting free. He's not down there his hand down, messing around. He's going to be on some tight ends. Going to be a big time mismatch. Next guy I want to talk about, look, it's a Gator. Now, he's a Bulldog. It's so strange to say it, but Trevor Etienne, listen, he's not coming to Georgia to sit around. What I like about him, I've watched a lot of tape. Number 1, great vision. Number 2, ability to break tackles. He reminds me so much there. I hate to compare this guy. Reminds me a lot of Sony. People used to bounce off Sony. They was talking about how hard he is, lower body. I love what Etienne, he could stretch you out, take a screenplay, and take it to the house.
We obviously know that the Dogs added some running backs, right? Some freshman guys coming in. How does he fit with the guys returning and the guys they just brought in? Where does Etienne go there?
Real simple. Trevor Etienne didn't come to Georgia to sit around and watch.
He's coming to play.
He's coming to play, and he can play every down because he's a threat in coming out of the backfield and passing and catch the ball. Big-time playmaker right here.
I remember when Georgia played Florida this season, and he came walking out the backs. And before I even saw the number on his shirt, I saw his legs.
Yes.
People, this guy's got some of the most massive legs.
He hadn't missed squat day ever.
So that means you know he's got good body control. He's absolutely going to be a guy that they're going to lean on. Yeah, like Rusty said, he coming to play.
A brother in the NFL, kind of similar to Dalvin Cook and James Cook. Maybe another Etienne combo right in the NFL. Now, Shock, you've been around these guys as much as anybody. Who are your guys you think have the most to gain?
Well, you know what? Number 1, it's going to seem obvious, but I think this is a big deal for some of the things that Rusty just talked about. Carson Beck is a guy that I think this offseason is going to be pivotal. You're talking about all the guys that he's lost on the outside. Brock, Ladd, Marcus Rosemead. Sid been praying as the center. This is going to be a year where he has to be the true leader of this team. He's got a year under his belt. He's played a lot of football. They're going to lean on Carson a lot this offseason to be that guy that gets them going. So it's going to be a big offseason for him because we got a lot of guys coming around him, like we just mentioned, with Etienne. They signed another receiver this week. So you got 3 new receivers coming into the fold. This is going to be a big offseason for Carson Beck. And the second guy I got is the guy who's going to be replacing Sand and Darren Wilson in the middle. You've seen him play some this season, and you're right, Russ. They love him.
They love this guy.
You're talking about the size, the physicality. He is going to be a guy that is going to command the respect up front. And it's going to be big because you're leaving a guy who, in saving and praying, who Rusty just talked about in our lag segment, is a guy that Georgia absolutely loved and was a true leader for him. He has to take over that spot for him.
Carson Beck's not coming back if he don't trust his center.
Absolutely.
I can guarantee you that. So he's got trust in Wilson.
And the last guy I want to talk about is Dalen Everett, a guy who played a lot this season, was asked to do a lot on the other side of Kamari Lassiter. Now you don't have a Kamari Lassiter back there. You don't have a Bull over there. It's going to be a lot put on his plate this season. Now they got a lot of young, talented freshman guys coming in. So that's what's going to be even bigger is these guys are going to be on his heels because he has to go out and play. He has the size. size. He has the physicality. He played this year in some big-time games and is a guy that they absolutely would depend on. So this offseason, he has to take that next step. You can't just lean on, oh, yeah, I played in the SEC. I did some good things. Each and every year, as we know, in this league, you have to keep getting better. And if at this program at the University of Georgia, if you don't get better, guess what? Somebody else is going to be moving that spot.
And nobody threw it Lassiter.
Yep.
Nobody. That dude came every single snap thinking they're coming my way.
Yep. It was his own island. But look, let's talk about Humphrey, right? He was a guy that was right there with Dalen Everett. He's saying he's coming back.
Yeah,
how does he fit into that mold?
Yeah, look, you don't have many guys that are 10, 400, 6-foot guys. And don't think Kirby Smart didn't get on a jet just to go hang out. They went and got him. Julian Humphrey out of Texas. Another big piece, Ellis Robinson, who many people think is the #1 player in the country, already signed and practicing.
People were saying this dude could be starting in the Orange Bowl.
That's right.
That's how good he was.
So
I mean, that's the skill level he's shown in high school, right?
So the trade at Georgia, big, long, and can run. If you don't have those three, you're not playing for Kirby Smart DB.
Absolutely. Now, DJ mentioned another receiver being added this week, Michael Jackson III from USC. Here he's got a pretty mean moonwalk, but what else can you tell about him?
Familiarity. He played with Darnell Washington in high school. Their former coach, David Hill, is on the staff. Also, Dante coming from USC, the new defensive back coach. I heard he vouched for him as well. So they got a background check. He checks all on and off the field. Another big wide receiver get for Carson Beck.
And that's what I just was thinking about. Big. So over 6 foot, can run, has that speed you want. I mean, look out. This is what Georgia hasn't had in a long time. Big, tall receivers that can thread you. They started with Rara last year. They're bringing in more guys like that.
Yeah, and obviously Colby, you mentioned from Miami, got the size. And then
6'5".
That's right. And then Humphreys from Vanderbilt, the speed, right? So Georgia is looking pretty in the receiving core next season.